Oh, wait, we're not.
Okay.
We don't have John.
Here he comes.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the March 2nd meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, if you could please take the roll.
Councilmember Burke Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilmember Lees.
Present.
Councilmember Overby.
Here.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
And I just wanted to say that Supervisor Van Scoyac couldn't join us today. The governor is here on Long Island and he's in a meeting with her to discuss housing and transportation, among other things. If we could now, if everybody could join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so today we have Hugh King with us, and you're up, Hugh. You gave us homework once again.
Okay, yes, we all had dates to look up and see what happened on those dates, and it doesn't have to be the thing that I have written down here. There could be others. Should we start with Councilwoman Rogers? She had 1639, 1648, 1650, and 1700.
Yes, I did.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, this is what I have for 1639, and this is where the island, the Gardiner's Island was settled by Lion Gardner. He moved his family there from the Connecticut colony. He reportedly purchased the island from the Montaukett people for a large black dog, some powder and shot, and a few Dutch blankets. He also needed to receive, and he received it that same year, a royal patent from the King of England, giving him the right to possess the land forever. Is that what you had?
That was
Are you like looking over your
Check with the
shoulder?
teacher,
It is-
make sure. Okay, 16.
Oh, and let me say something about that. The Native American who signed the deed was the Shelter Island sachem. And everyone looks at the price that was paid supposedly, and didn't the Indians give up this island for very little? Wrong. The reason that we think that Lion Gardner was able to purchase that is that the Montaukets wanted a English presence in this area because the Narragansetts and the Pequots were constantly coming over here and attacking them. They figured they had an Englishman on that island, it would protect them. So.
And that's a sentence I left out. The Montaukets gave Gardner the title, at least in part because of support for them in the Pequot War.
Yeah, well, and Lion Gardner was a military engineer.
Yes, he was.
That was part of it.
But no one gave the Indians any credit for thinking about themselves.
Strategic
They
war
didn't get
planning.
duped in this transaction. That's the important point. Okay, thank you. All right, this next 1648.
1648, and that was another purchase from the colonial governors of Connecticut agreed to pay the Montaukets. Again, what it said in the book was coats, knives, hatchets, looking glass, and tools for more than 30,000 acres east of Southampton, expanding the English settlement on Long Island. 9 men settled, naming the place Maidstone after the English town in Kent where they came from.
That's right. And the English were the second to come here because the Montaukets were here already.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. That's it.
Okay. Yep. 1650. The town meeting was organized, organizing, electing legislature, and deciding power. As early as October 3rd, 1650, at a town meeting, then Holden called a court of election. Thomas Talmadge Jr. is chosen recorded. 4 men with the constable for orders of ye affairs of the town, and Thomas Baker was chosen as a townman at that first election. Is that what you have?
Sure.
1700. Lots of stuff happened in 1700. I was really, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? One was the wharf being built for whaling up in the Northwest Woods. I believe that was by
Abraham Scaliger.
And he's also important in 1700 for another reason.
Okay.
Thomas Baker died, unfortunately. And I found in one source where it said Samuel fish hooks.
Mulford.
Mulford became the assemblyman for Suffolk County at the Provisional Assembly. But then I found in another book that happened a couple of years later.
Yeah, it was a little later, I think.
I
But yeah.
wasn't sure. But also in 1700, the Office of Town Supervisor was created.
Oh.
And who was the first town supervisor?
Somebody named Conklin?
Abraham Skellinger
Oh,
for a term of 1 year.
that's what I thought. Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Overby, you had 1657, 1659, and 1660.
I did. And I also included some 1658 in there because some of these dates seem to overlap. So in 1657, the wife of Joshua Garlick, named Goodwife Garlick, or we know her as Goody Garlick, was
Right.
accused of witchcraft.
Right.
By an order of the town meeting on March 19th in 1657. She was ordered to be taken to Hartford for trial. Now, why was she going to Hartford, you might ask? Is because at that time, the town also voted to become a colony or a settlement of the Connecticut colony. So being very efficient and being very prudent, they sent a delegation of people to Connecticut and Hartford to ask to be the settlement under the same conditions that Southampton had become a settlement. And they said, while you're going, take her with you. And they did. So she was taken to Hartford for trial. The only known case of witchcraft for the trial of which the town authorities preferred to seek a higher tribunal resulted in an acquittal. So it was quoted in Henry P. Hedges' book, whereupon there did not appear to be sufficient evidence to prove her guilty. By the way, Joshua Garlick the husband lived to be 100 years old, and he died in 1700.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's another one.
There we go, back to 1700. In 1658, there were a couple of things that were happening. One was that I thought was interesting was the trial of Wyandanch, Sachem Wyandanch. Now, he wasn't put on trial, but he wanted an action against damages that were caused by Jeremy Daly. The damages were caused to his what they called great canoe. And so he went to trial to collect damages, and he won.
Mm-hmm.
And he won 10 shillings, I'm assuming that's what the small s was, for the damages. However, in 1659, which may be the date we were also talking about, Wyandanch passed away.
Mm-hmm.
In 1660, Wyandanch's widow sold the land from present-day Hither Hills to the tip of Montauk Point for £100.
The hills.
It is to be paid in 10 equal shares of Indian corn or good wampum at 6 to a penny.
All right.
And those were the things that happened in those days. In that time period. And there was one other in 1660 that I found in the trustees' records. And of course, it's said in Old English. So upon petition from the Montauk Indians on Long Island and divers for English, which I don't understand what that means, the commissioners for the better security of them do order that if the Narragansett come within 6 miles of any of the 3 English towns within any of our jurisdictions upon Long Island, we do hereby order that the English inhabitants may remove them. I'm not sure what that means by may remove.
Well, they didn't come over very often. Also, 1660 was one of the first cattle drives to Montauk.
It was also said that Deep Hollow Ranch was founded in 1650.
Well,
I don't know if that was.
That's a stretch.
That was a stretch. That was in one of the. I think that was
if you want to read more about the Goody Garlic witchcraft case, of course, there's a book about it.
Yes.
What's the book name?
It's called "It Were as Well to Please the Devil as Anger Him: Witchcraft in the Founding Days of East Hampton" by Dr. Loretta O'Ryan.
That's right.
Okay, it's costs $20 and the money goes to the library. You can get it at the library. So there'll be a test on it if you're here next time. I'm kidding. Okay, Deputy Supervisor Gonzalez.
Okay. So you gave me 1720, 1730, and 1744. And I was struggling with 1720, so I called you because I kept getting circa 1720, and I wanted to make sure that was okay, and you said it was. So circa 1720, two things came up, and there are actually two local museums that we have now. One is Home Sweet Home, and the other is the Osborne Jackson House. And the Osborne Jackson House is one of the few still in its original position on Main Street, one of the few colonial homes still in its original position on Main Street, and it's owned and maintained by the Village of East Hampton. It serves as the headquarters for the East Hampton Historical Society, as well as being a period house museum for the general public. The original house on this site, thought to have been built in 1723, which is where I'm
Okay.
kind of getting close to 1720, would have been a one-story with a huge gable roof containing sleeping and storage areas. And then the second was Home Sweet Home on James Lane, which was built circa 1720 and is the most distinguished lean-to or salt box in East Hampton. It is a vivid reminder of what homes were like in the early English settlement. The home was lived in by the relatives of John Howard Payne, the composer of the lyrics to the popular song Home Sweet Home, and may have been the inspiration for this song. And I thought, Hugh, you might want to put a plug in for, the museum's hours and where folks can come in and.
Yeah, we open up
Visit.
May 1st. We're open every day, May through September, and then weekends in October and November. And when you come to Home Sweet Home, you also get to look at the Panago windmill that's behind there. You get to go into that windmill. So yes, thank you.
So then I had 1730, and I found an interesting piece on this. In 1730, the Crown declares whales are not royal fish and eases taxation on the East Hampton whaling industry. And that was in a New York Times article that was written in 1998, East Hampton at 350, a chronology, and they had a list of dates. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with that article. And then in 1744, again, I'm taking liberties and doing circa 1744. I was reading the history of East Hampton by Bob Hefner, and he stated that the town of East Hampton covers the eastern half of Long Island's South Fork, an area of approximately 48,000 acres. During the 18th century, the last division of land occurred. Between 1736 and 1747, the proprietors allotted 15,000 acres. The remaining undivided land was thought to have very little value and was claimed by the town trustees. This final division made the proprietors suddenly land rich and allowed the sale of property in new areas of the town. So then I went to the East Hampton Library's digital archives and plugged in 1744, and 7 individual land deeds came up for transference, and they had good penmanship back then.
1744 also, first house was built in 1744. That's right on the divide, and it burned down, I think, in 1909. But the cemetery's still there, right?
And first house, actually, the area has actually been recently excavated and opened up, and they found it with the help of Dick White, with James Walsh, with, I'm forgetting who else is, Tom Dess, and they've actually found the original well of second house. First house, just recently, and Jim Grimes. They opened it up with help from the state recently. It's right on site. It's amazing to see the well and location. And if you can just sit there, it's on the top of a little bit of a knoll in that location, you can see how the house was set southwest to get the prevailing winds at that time. And you can see how there was nothing there. It would be a beautiful place to live. There could be a fence that run all the way across in that setting back from those years. That was recently done just within the last 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a nice initiative that they're trying there.
Okay, and now Councilman Lees, you had 1686, 1699, 1700, and 1712. that right?
No.
It may be right.
Well, just pick any
That's
dates
not
you
what
want to
you're
do and
getting.
do them. Let's go, so we can get done here.
So we can get done. I had 1686, I had 1699, and I had 1715. I've
Okay.
actually really enjoyed this one, Hugh. It was a tougher challenge to do research on it based on dates and not specifically people, places, or names. I went down the rabbit hole because I thought of research thinking that you wanted us to connect those dates and
Me-
make them all
Me
in
too.
common.
That's the other reason I called him.
And it was difficult. So yeah, I
Did
was.
you do it? Because I couldn't.
No,
Yeah.
I did to two of them, but
Well,
not.
I didn't mean that, so.
I know, but
Okay.
well,
It's
for
all
the
right.
betterment
That's
of
why
everyone
we
in the
do this.
audience.
You take,
We'll see.
you take it in a different direction. That's great. It's okay.
Sure.
He's a good
Okay.
teacher.
Witnessed by this person's hand, the 9th day of December, 1686, and in the second year of the reign of the said sovereign lord, James, King of England, Scotland, France, Ireland, defender of the faith. Also mentioned in this document was Thomas James, Captain Josiah Hobart, Captain Thomas Talmadge, Lieutenant John Wheeler, Ensign Samuel Mulford, John Mulford, Thomas Chatfield Sr., Jeremiah Conklin, Stephen Hand, Robert Dayton, Mr. Thomas Baker, Thomas Osborne, to stand to be the first modern trustees and freeholders of the commonalty of the town of East Hampton. It was in this year, in 1686, that Thomas Duggan, who was the New York governor at the time, signed an agreement assuring self-government and rights to the people of the town of East Hampton. Thomas Duggan, also known as the second Earl of Limerick, was a member of the Irish Parliament, royal military officer in the English Civil War. It was on this date that he actually put in what was commonly called as the Dongan patent, but also the East Hampton patent at the time. That was the easy one because over my shoulder,
Okay.
it forms modern day trustees that we had in 1686.
You didn't look at that when you did it. So.
Well, that was the easy one you gave it to me. I
I know,
I had that one.
It's
And
all right.
Rick knows that well.
Well, the next one's easy too.
Not really. That was my tough one. That was my tough one. So trying to match that there in 1699, I came up with two things. One of them is that the original Doggan patent in 1686 spelled East Hampton as one word, but an article by David Rattray, 1699, was the first time that he noticed that East Hampton was spelled with two words,
Oh.
East and then Hampton. But in 1699, what brings me back to the island of death, Monchinaki, or Gardiner's Island, depending where we're going, was in 1699, where Captain Kidd was said to bury treasure over Long Island. He parted ways with his quartermaster at Little Northwest Creek near Sag Harbor in 1699 and divided up the booty of the voyage. And this is the same year in June of 1699, he stopped at the island while sailing to Boston, the island being Gardiner's Island at the time. And if you do go to the Long Island collection, they do have the golden cloth.
Yeah.
That might be wrong, not the golden cloth, but you
Cloth of gold. Same thing. It's all right.
well said.
I was hoping that happened in 1700.
No, it was then. What also happened in 1699? The Hunting Inn was originally built in 1699 for the second Presbyterian minister of East Hampton, the Reverend Nathaniel, and I have actually didn't copy and paste that. So the Hunting Inn was built in 1699. This brings me back then to 1715. 1715 is the year that Thomas Duggan died. So that's why I was trying to connect it all. He lived in London for the last years of his life and died on December 14th of 1715 at the age of 81, and is buried at the Old St. Pancras, churchyard in London. Also in 1715, I found that it was when the Dominy House on North Main Street was also built.
Right.
The lean-to type of style house on the west side of the street. Again, the Dominies were recognized for their carpentry and clockwork in the family. That's what I found.
And the Dominy House is now being resurrected. You know, the two workshops are there. And then they built a facade of the building to connect them. And then behind that, there's going to be a display area for Dominy furniture. And hopefully that will be going in the summer. You know why it's so great what you're doing? Because we have the town records and the village records. You know, we have the trustee records. We have them going back to the beginning of time. And that's what enables you to find some of these answers. We're so fortunate to have all those records. All right, stop me talking. Here you go. Next week. Now, the supervisor is 2 assignments behind,
Yeah.
you know, and he's not going to be able to graduate until he gets these assignments in and passes the final along with Councilwoman Overby.
All right.
There'll be a final before you leave. Okay, here we go. Okay. Councilwoman Rogers, 1745, 1746, 1746 again. Okay.
Mhm.
Councilwoman Overby, 1747, 1770, 1775.
Do I get to count 1770 House as the best restaurant in town?
No,
Darn it.
unless they're giving out free meals.
Maybe if we say that, we'll all get a free meal.
All right, I will give Ann Bell the supervisor's assignments, okay? And now Councilman Lease, 1796, that's an easy one,
Yeah.
1802, and the years 1804 through 1806.
What?
Yeah,
1804 through what year? 1806?
1806.
Okay.
And Deputy Supervisor Gonzalez, 1806, 1827, and 1840.
Okay.
We're working our way up to 1975. Staying awake, okay? All right, see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
you.
care.
Okay, so we had 4 public hearings scheduled today. I just got word that the last public hearing, we have to pull because there was an issue with the printing of the notice in the East Hampton Star. So we'll be hearing a local law amending Chapter 102 for building construction and compliance with East Hampton tree protection guidelines, hearing that where we'll consider amending Chapter 162 supplemental real estate transfer tax for community housing and the effective date. And the last one today will then be consider amending Chapter 112 community preservation. That will be followed by public comment and then resolutions. So Carol, if you could read the COVID notice and the first hearing notice, that would be great.
The public hearings will be held live and in person by the town board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but it may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person, by agent, by attorney, or by call in to the live stream, or by written comment addressed to the East Hampton Town Clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Comments may also be submitted to the town clerk by email to cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the town clerk by the date and time of the public hearing. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes and for updated information. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Thursday, March 2nd at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, to consider comments of all persons regarding an amendment to a local law to amend Chapter 102-7, application for building permit, by adding a new section, photo evidence must be submitted that applicant has complied with the town of East Hampton tree protection guidelines prior to construction activity at the site, if applicable. Any violation or non-compliance during the construction activity of the East Hampton tree protection guidelines shall be subject to penalties under Section 102-21, an abstract of which follows. Chapter 102, building construction, application for a building permit. Application for a building permit shall be made to the building inspector on forms provided by him and shall contain the following information: a description of the land on which the proposed work is to be done, a statement of the use or occupancy of all parts of the land and of the building structure, evaluation of the proposed work, a full name and address of the owner of the application, and the names and addresses of their responsible offices, if any of them are corporations, a brief description of the nature of the proposed work, a duplicate set of plans and specifications as set forth in subsection C1 of this section. Photo evidence must be submitted that applicant has complied with the Town of East Hampton tree protection guidelines prior to construction activity at the site if applicable. Any violation or non-compliance during the construction activity of the East Hampton tree protection guidelines shall be subject to the penalties under 102-21. Such other information as may responsibly be required by the building inspector to establish compliance with the proposed work with the requirements of the applicable building laws, ordinances, and regulations.
Great, thank you, Carol. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? David?
Good afternoon, David Buddha from the Springs. I certainly support the objectives and purposes of this proposed legislation, which has laudatory purposes, but I would like to suggest a couple of needed tweaks just so it's understood and implemented properly. The legislation references the tree protection guidelines, and you have such a handout that was discussed at a work session, but that really needs to be specifically referenced and incorporated by reference so that people know what it is and where it is and how they can find it and how they can review it. The guidelines really seem to be drafted to protect large, significant, existing shade trees. I draw that conclusion from the illustrations in the critical root zone tree protection handout that was also discussed at the work session. And in the illustration and in the photographs that are part of the tree protection guidelines. I think that the town needs to be a little bit broader in its purpose to protect not just large existing shade trees, but the existing vegetation that occurs prior to any construction or clearing activities in a vacant, undisturbed lot. That really can be done by tweaking the language in this legislation. Also, reference is made to town right-of-way, which is somewhat ambiguous. Certainly, I think it's understood that you're referring to street or roadway right-of-ways, which include up to the front of property line of a private property. But what is ambiguous and has raised problems in other parts of the town code enforcement procedures is what do you mean by a roadway right-of-way? And I would suggest that it be interpreted in the broadest sense, which is not just town highways, but also those roadways, any open roadway that is in use by vehicular traffic, which would include those open urban renewal map roads, which if you take a look at some other areas of legislation, state legislation that deals with, for example, setting speed limits, is broader than just dealing with town highways, but specifically deals with any roadway that's used by the public. So I think that you need to define town right-of-way in a very broad and inclusive manner. You need to make sure that this covers not just construction activity, but also clearing activity, because there's a difference in the code and language for clearing permits and construction permits or building permits, although sometimes clearing permits are referred to as building permits. And lastly, there should be, for the sake of builders and developers, there should be some specification of the minimum size of the diameter at breast height of a tree that needs to be photographed and made part of the application for the building permit. Trees are anything from minuscule sticks in the ground versus massive trees. So there should be a specification of what size vegetation needs to be photographed and made part of the policy of protecting existing trees adjacent to construction sites. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else here like to address the board on this? Jason, is there anyone on the phone that wants to talk on this public hearing?
I have one caller. I will unmute that caller right now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller ending 8764. You're on the air.
Yes, but I wanted to speak in the public portion, not on this particular hearing.
Thank you very much. I'll circle back to you during the public portion.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Carol, if you could read the second meeting notice, please.
Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 2nd at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, to consider a local law and abstract of which follows. A local law amending Chapter 162 Supplemental Real Estate Transfer Tax for Community Housing, Section 162 to 101, effective date, mandatory referendum to read as follows. Effective date, mandatory referendum. A mandatory referendum having been submitted to the voters of the town of East Hampton on the 8th day of November, 2022, to fund affordable housing opportunities in East Hampton Town and amending Chapter 160 of the Town Code entitled Community Housing Opportunity Fund by adding new Chapter 162 entitled Supplemental Real Estate Transfer Tax for Community Housing, establishing a half-point tax paid by the purchaser of real property in the town of East Hampton with the revenues deposited in the East Hampton Community Housing Opportunity Fund having been approved by the voters. The effective date of the provisions of Chapter 162 as approved by Resolution 2022-943 shall be April 1, 2023.
Great, thank you. Anyone here would like to address the board? David?
Again, my name is David Buddha. I just want to bring up one very minor point. I know the purpose of this specific legislation is simply to specify the correct effective date of the legislation. But as I noted at the prior work session, I think there was a drafting error and oversight in the town merging together or trying to meld together the pre-existing Community Housing Opportunity Fund and this new specific Community Housing Fund that was created by the new legislation that's implemented by a different kind of tax. There are different sources of funds that are give rise to either donations or mandatory payments into the Community Housing Opportunity Fund. And there are differences in the purposes of those two legislations. There are some limitations on the purposes of the Community Housing Fund. For example, many people don't realize that the legislation expressly limits it to use for primary housing. And I think that you need to, if not, it doesn't really affect the adoption of this proposed change, but I think that the town's attorney's office should take a look at clarifying the two so that there's no confusion or any inappropriate merging or melding of the two separate financial funds.
John, do you want to address that?
That's actually in the works at the present moment. Because
Thank you.
we've noticed that
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the verbiage is so similar. Obviously, the Community Housing Fund
Right.
is designed to create housing opportunities, but we had a Community Housing Opportunity Fund in existence, and its sources of funding is different
Right.
than this new tax.
We're going to straighten all that out, but we appreciate you bringing that to everyone's attention.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone else that's joined us that may want to speak on this hearing?
There are no new callers.
Okay,
Motion to close?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Carol, the third meeting notice, please.
Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 2nd, 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, to consider a local law and abstract of which follows. A local law amending Chapter 112, Community Preservation, to conform its contents with the language contained in Chapter 160, Community Housing Opportunity Fund, and Chapter 162, Supplemental Real Estate Transfer Tax for Community Housing. Chapter 112, Community Preservation, 112-220, imposition of real estate transfer tax is amended to read as follows. There is hereby imposed in the town of East Hampton a tax on which conveyance of real estate property or interest therein where the consideration exceeds $500,000 as authorized by Article 31D of the New York tax law, the rate of such tax will be 2% of the consideration for the conveyance, with revenues from such tax shall be deposited into the Community Preservation Fund established pursuant to Article 1 of this chapter to be used solely for the purpose of said fund, and 0.5% to be deposited into a fund for community housing purposes as authorized under Chapter 162, Supplemental Real Estate Transfer Tax for Community Housing. Such tax shall apply to any conveyance occurred on or after April 1st, 2023, but shall not apply to conveyances made on or after such date pursuant to binding written contracts entered into prior to such date, provided that the date of execution of such contract is confirmed by independent evidence, such as the recording of the contract, payment of the deposit, or other facts and circumstances as determined by the county treasurer. Chapter 112, Community Preservation, 112-220, additional exemptions. There shall be allowed an exemption of $400,000 on the consideration of the conveyance of improved real property or an interest therein. No exception on conveyances of $2 million or greater. There shall be allowed an exemption of $100,000 on the consideration of conveyance of unimproved real property or an interest therein. No exception on conveyances of $2 million or greater. The local law shall take effect April 1st upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Thank you, Carol. Would anyone like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
We have no new callers.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Well, that takes care of our public hearings for today. We can now move on to public portion. We've got a few folks signed up. The first is Robert Whalen.
Richard Whalen.
No, they changed.
Well,
Okay.
I have to get back to my office by 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So we'll switch back again. So, good afternoon, Madam Deputy Supervisor and members of the town board. I have a letter I'd like to read to you on behalf of the Coalition for Hither Woods. On Thursday, February 23rd, 2023, the Suffolk County Parks Trustees firmly rejected by a 10-0 vote the town's proposal to acquire 14 acres of county parkland in Hither Woods and convert that land into a site for treatment of downtown Montauk wastewater. The town board can attempt to go around the Parks Trustees and try to get the county legislature to vote for the alienation of parkland. If you do that, there will be a battle before the legislature. Supporting the Coalition for Hither Woods in its opposition to parkland alienation will be most of the major environmental groups in Suffolk County, as well as organizations who represent most of the users of parks throughout Suffolk County: hunters, hikers, mountain bikers, and others. But you have a choice. You can use the Parks Trustees vote as an opportunity to redirect your efforts to address Montauk wastewater issues by means that are popularly supported. To be clear, for the Coalition and its affiliates, the alienation of parkland is a red line. We will fight with all the force at our disposal any attempt by the town board to use parkland to solve wastewater issues on Montauk. We continue to believe, in the absence of evidence to the contrary, that these issues are overblown. More important, if the town's objective is to improve water quality in Fort Pond and Lake Montauk, there are more effective and more cost-efficient ways to do that, but then by sewering much of Montauk. That, however, is not our fight. The Coalition will support the town in its efforts to improve Montauk's environment, but we will oppose any encroachment on the hamlet's parks. Please choose a course that all Montauk residents and those of the town generally can support. Sincerely, Richard Whalen, President, Coalition for Hither Woods. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Excuse me, Rick, would you send us a copy of that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Carol.
Robert Whalen.
Hi, Robert Whalen, dear members of the board. During the Suffolk County Parks Trustee meeting on February 23rd, a conversation ensued between H2M's project manager, Nick Bono, and the Suffolk County legislator, Stephen Floderin. The discussion focused on the downtown Montauk wastewater recharge into the Hither Woods aquifer. Steve Floderin asked, What are you going to do to solve that problem with things that people are flushing down the toilet, such as meds or anything else? H2M program manager Nick Bono replied, "The treatment plant technology is on the wastewater side. They are not designed to remove pharmaceuticals. Regulation-wise, pharmaceuticals are not regulated. The emergent contaminants on the wastewater side are not regulated." In other words, when arguing about the benefits of refilling the Hitherwoods aquifer with wastewater from downtown Montauk, H2M program manager Nick Bono acknowledges that all the contaminants that people flush down the toilet, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, drugs, estrogen, and all other things, are not contained by the wastewater treatment plant and could make their way into the Hitherwoods aquifer. Normally, this is not a consideration because wastewater sewage treatment plants are never considered to be built on top of any aquifer. The Hitherwoods aquifer is part of the Suffolk County Special Groundwater Protection Area and is an irreplaceable supply of Montauk's sole source drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you. Salvador Terminini, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I'm Sal Termini, and I'm from Montauk. I wrote something because I'm not good at speaking in front of podiums, or not usually speaking in front of podiums. I currently live in Montauk, in our family home. I work in construction, and I'm also a volunteer fireman and ambulance driver for the department. My family and I spent our summers in Montauk throughout my childhood, staying on a 28-foot sailboat, and during this time, we fell in love with Montauk and its local community. My parents saved, and in 2000 bought property on Westlake Drive, and after 13 years were able to build the home that I now live in with them. My parents moved out here full-time a couple of years ago, and I moved out here after high school when I was 19 years old. While living here and throughout the sharp rise in property values during the pandemic, my parents and I actively looked for a home that I could live in with my future family. Unfortunately, based on my salary and the property values and what the bank will lend me, it's about half of what you could get for a house in Montauk. Even if my parents co-brokered the deal, I simply could not afford the bills that would go along with that on my current salary. The ADU program that you guys have proposed seems at first to be the perfect solution for me. I could have a stable, affordable place to live and work year-round and serve as a first responder as I continue to save for my future. My parents generously agreed to help me with the considerable cost of building an ADU on our property, and we began the process, but we have reached an impasse, which brings me before you guys today. The way we are reading the proposed law, having an ADU on the property would turn the entire property into an affordable housing unit. In our opinion, that would severely devalue the entire property by making both the primary residence an ADU and subject to state and town affordable rental controls. I think this would discourage anyone from having an ADU because it would limit summer rental income, which many local families rely on to afford to live out here full time. Taking away local residents' summer rental income would not only curb the incentive to invest in an ADU, which costs would take decades to recoup, it also would make it harder for locals to remain living here, competing with all the outside investment money that is driving up out of reach the housing costs and everything else. We very much appreciate the town's efforts in trying to help solve this complex problem of affordable housing, and we very much would like to see it work. If more people could have an affordable place to live here full time, I think it would enhance the entire community. We respectfully ask if you would consider making it possible for local residents and their families to take advantage of the ADU program by building one, but not having those rules apply to the entire property, but only to the structure that's being built.
Okay, so we had noticed for public hearing for the 16th, the local legislation for ADUs. Unfortunately, it didn't capture all of the conversations and discussion we had at the board level. We're going to, on Tuesday, we're going to be pulling that public hearing. We're going to be discussing ADU legislation then, and then we're going to be re-noticing for a public hearing in April.
Okay, sorry. So I might have came at the
No,
wrong
no,
time.
no,
you came
not
in
at
the-
all.
no,
But-
no,
But your
this is-
points are all well
Public
taken.
discussion is necessary no matter when it
Yeah,
happens.
you're welcome
Okay.
back anytime.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Your
just letting you
point
know,
is-
there's other opportunities to speak as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just, we're hoping that you take that into consideration. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Sure.
you.
So, but if you might want to tune in on Tuesday during our work session when we discuss
Yeah,
it,
that's the 16th, Tuesday.
this, well, the 7th.
Seventh,
Seven.
next,
At
this coming.
11?
At 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you can watch it on YouTube. You don't have to be
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah.
And then we'll be renoticing the legislation.
Okay, great.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us,
Thank
Salvatore.
you.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Jason, you said you had a caller on the line?
Yes, we do. They are still on the line. I am unmuting them now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller 8764. Hey, there you are.
Hi, it's Carol Buda from Springs. I wanted to, I've been following the board's discussions about the pickleball, and I just wanted to comment. I know that the town has plans to resurface the Springs courts this year, and I just want to appeal to the board to reconsider how they paint those courts when they resurface them. And right now there are 3 tennis courts, and the plan is to add pickleball lines to the courts. And I'd like the town to reconsider taking one of the courts and turning it into 2 dedicated pickleball courts and 2 dedicated tennis courts. And the reason being that they're different games. The pickleball net in the center is actually 34 inches, tennis net's 36. When you put the pickleball lines on the tennis court lines are white, high contrast, very visible, and then the pickleball lines are sort of muted and more difficult to see. And it's just, we're in Florida this winter, and they have beautiful tennis courts, beautiful pickleball courts all over. The tennis courts were almost always empty, and the pickleball courts were almost always full, often with people waiting. I think it's a great idea to build dedicated courts in the new senior center, but that's probably 2 years down the road, and this would be a rather easy option to get some dedicated courts there sooner rather than later. So I'm just hoping that the board will reconsider that.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Jason, is there anyone
Thank
else
you.
on the line?
We have no other callers.
Okay. So I think we'll move into resolutions and let's start. Resolution 2023-314, it's approval of the warrant. Claims total $5,596,651.92. And the utility warrant totals $66,432.99.
Second.
All in favor?
My apologies. Excuse me. We just have one call. Oh, one caller just hopped onto it just called in. I don't know what you would like to,
Okay.
how you'd like to proceed.
Absolutely. We'll take the call.
All right. Hello, caller ending 1337. You're on the air. 1 second. Sorry. Wait. Hey, there you are. Hello. You're on the air.
We'll take the call.
Hello, caller ending 1337. You're on the air.
Hello, caller ending 1337. Your TV's on the background and you are on the air. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please mute your TV in the background, please. They hung up.
Okay. All right. We'll keep going then. Resolution 2023-315 is to authorize Detective Michael Coleman and Detective Frank Sokolowski to attend the 2023 sex crime seminar sponsored by New York State Police. Financial impact is $1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
316 approves the agreement with Suffolk County for the 2023 residential repair program for seniors 60 plus.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 317 approves the agreement with Suffolk County for 2023, and that's the shopping assistance program for seniors 60 plus.
Second. I apologize.
That's okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
318 approves the AAA transportation agreement with Suffolk County for 2023, and this relates to our senior transportation program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 319 is to adopt amendments to Chapter 151, Special Event Permits in the East Hampton Town Code. We held this public hearing on February 16th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
David, you're up. Page 19.
Thank you. I'd like to offer Resolution 2023-320. This is scheduling a public hearing for the 2023 CPF Community Preservation Fund Management Stewardship Plan. This public hearing will be held on March 16, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2023-321 is to appoint part-time principal building inspector in the building department, Ann Glennon, effective February 24th, 2023, on an hourly rate of $50 per hour.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
322 is appoint provisional building inspector in the building department, Ryan Benitez, where the town board has requested receiving the canvas said lists to find that there remains less than 3 willing acceptors. In accordance with CSA contract, the position has been posted, and then Ryan Benitez will be hereby appointed to the provisional basis to the full-time position of building inspector, an hourly rate of $34.79, $72,368.61 annually, effective March 27th.
Second. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
323 is appoint part-time custodial worker 1, Anna German, at the hourly rate of $22 per hour, effective March 16th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
324, appoint lifeguard to the preseason training 2023, John Clark, at an hourly rate of $24.25, effective March 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2023-325 is a reclassification and promotion to principal office assistant Evelyn Calderon, where Evelyn is senior office assistant Spanish speaking in the building department, and would be hereby appointed to the full-time position of principal office assistant building department, hourly rate of $30.03 an hour, annually $62,460.74, retroactive to February 17th, 2023, and the probationary period is 12 weeks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2023-326. This is the retained Rosemark Contracting Incorporated. This is for the Fort Pond Road and Tut Hill Road road improvements. They'll bring the roadway up to town highway specifications. They're going to be retained to perform the road work set forth in their December 20th, 2022 proposal at a cost not to exceed $236,780.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
327 is retained Con and Con PC. This is for the Beach Plum Court case for 2023 at the hourly rates below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
328 is retained LK McLean Association Incorporated for drainage improvements at the Manor Road and Fort Pond Road. Again, they submitted a proposal on December 12th, 2022 to the Superintendent of Highways, and we required professional services, including part-time construction inspection, contract administrative service for the duration of the project. This is not to exceed $24,680.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
329, authorize appraisal for 173 Accabonac Road for Patty Parsons, not to exceed $1,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 330 is to reject proposal EH 2023-104. This is improvements for town areas with public internet, Wi-Fi, and public visible cameras.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
331 is to extend engineering services for LK McLean Associates PCs for the Montauk Commercial Fishing Docks at Town Road and Star Island. The construction inspection is not to exceed $47,200, which is initially. And now the professional services hereby increase the sum of $43,200 from $190,100 to $233,300.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
332 is a change order number 1 for bid EH22-001. This is for the Star Island Dock Rehabilitation, Keith Grimes, where the town's engineer reviewed the change order for removal of debris from the bottom land that was unknown from the dock area in the sum of $33,804.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
333 is accept a donation of a memorial bench, a gift from Evan Thomas. Whereas Evan Thomas would like to donate a memorial bench as a gift to the town of East Hampton in the memory of his good friend Helen Beck Isaac Kuhn, to be placed in front of Miss Amelia's cottage facing Main Street in Amagansett, the corner of 129 Main Street and Windmill Lane. Therefore, now resolved that the town board hereby gratefully accepts a donation by Evan Thomas to the town of East Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2023-334 is a grant of a scenic and conservation easement to set and schedule a public hearing and notice of public hearing. This is the grantor is HRH Design Group LLC. It's a scenic and conservation easement at 172 Cranberry Hill Road in Amagansett. Reviewing agency is Zoning Board of Appeals, and the public hearing will be held on Thursday, March 16th. 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I have resolution 2023-335, and this is a notice of a public hearing to amend Town Code Chapter 91, Beaches and Parks, Article 3, Hunting on Town Lanes, to correct an error to the reference of town park line property schedules in section 91-46, restrictions on the issuance of license and additional regulations. And this is to correct that section of the code 4196A. And this is to include as in this town property schedules 1 through 5 inclusive. The public hearing will be held on March 16th at 11 a.m.
Second.
John, hold on a second. Just before you even do it, John, did you just want to weigh in on this or?
I'm sorry. Yeah, basically what happened here is that particular code section refers to the town board being able to adjust or limit or restrict provisions that are in the hunting statute with regard to particular properties. And when it referenced the properties, it just referenced Schedule 1. It's actually Schedules 1 through 5. And they're each divided up by hamlet area, the locations of the parklands. So it was an oversight. I talked to Scott's office, and they all agreed that, there was some mistake. It was just left out. So this is just to update that and make that a complete list of town parklands. Doesn't change anything else. It's but it gives you the authority at some future date if you need to adjust any kind of in-place limitations or suspend them or do anything like that. You'll have the authority to do that on any of the town parklands in the township. So it's just correcting a past error.
Right.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this next resolution, we didn't have the public hearing. How are we just withdrawing it? Okay. Make a motion to withdraw resolution 2023-336.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So now resolution 2023-337, and this is Environmental Systems Research Institute, the extension of a contract, a 3-year contract for access to ESRI software and maintenance agreement. Whereas the town retained Environmental Systems Research Institute, Inc., and which granted the town of East Hampton access to the software on an unlimited basis, including maintenance on all software offered through the ELA for the terms of this agreement. Whereas the town wishes to extend the agreement for an additional 3 years of service for the years 2023, 2024, and 2025. Whereas ESRI submitted a proposal dated February 10th, 2023 to provide such services under the Small Town Enterprise Agreement at a set cost not to exceed the town for a total of $28,400 for each agreement year. And be it resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute all documents to enter into the Small Municipal and County Enterprise Agreement with the Environmental Systems Research Institute for that period of 3 years at an annual fee of $28,400.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2023-338 is for Downtown Montauk Beach Survey 2023. And this is where the town has a need of a survey of the Army Corps of Engineers Downtown Montauk Beach Replenishment Project site to determine the quantity of sand required for compliance with the Operation Maintenance Agreement. Therefore, be it resolved that the firm of Robert H. Fox, DBA Sea Level Mapping, is hereby retained to perform the required survey as referenced above for a cost not to exceed $3,000 as per the proposal dated 2/16/2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 2023-339 is to authorize payment for past due invoices for Cablevision Light Path, and this is where it's been ascertained by the town clerk's office and verified in the Munis software that the past due invoices from 2029 for cable were never paid to Cablevision Light Path for expenses incurred by the IT department. Therefore, be it resolved that the town shall pay the outstanding balance due invoices totaling $395.83 for 2029.
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Second.
Wow.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 2023-340 is a bond in the amount of $285,000. It's for road improvements for Fort Pond Road and Tuttle Road.
Second.
I just had a quick discussion on this.
Sure.
I want to let everyone know that this bond is part of a road improvement district. The town has to put the money up. The money will be paid back to the town, to the road improvement district by the property owners of the Rough Riders condominiums, as we've discussed in town board meetings in the past.
Great. I had a second.
Need a roll call?
Present. I'm sorry, aye.
Good for you.
Aye.
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 Okay, Resolution 2023-341 is to appoint Administrative Assistant in the Human Resources Department, Sue Jones, at the annual salary of $65,797.89, grade 28, starting step, for a 40-hour work week.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
342 is to promote Bradley Hughes to Police Sergeant in the East Hampton Town Police Department at the annual salary of $147,130.25, effective retroactive to February 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And congratulations to Sergeant Hughes. Resolution 2023-343 is reclassification and promotion to Harbor Master 2 for Jason Sharon at the annual salary of $77,632.05 for a 40-hour work week, retroactive to January 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
344 is reclassification and promotion to Waterways Maintenance Mechanic 3 for Jeremy Gould at the annual salary of $67,120.14 for a 40-hour work week, retroactive to February 17th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
345 recognizes the completion of the probationary period for police officers Jack Bory, Nicholas Kachins, I can never pronounce, Kachinach, and Nicole Fierro, and this is retroactive to September 29th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
346 approves the termination of a probationary employee effective March 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2023-347 authorizes attendance at the State Association of Municipal Purchasing Officials. It's a conference being held in Wading River for Jeannie Carrozza, Lisa Valchik, and Rhonda Daniels. The financial impact is $75.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
348 is to amend Resolution 2022-986, use of American Rescue Plan monies from 2021. This is for the Star Island Dock rehabilitation. This approves a change order, which will increase the project cost by $77,004. And again, the funding source is the American Rescue Plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
349 amends Resolution 2023-246. This corrects Eric Cobb's annual salary. It should be $59,734.42, retroactive to February 12th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2023-350 is a budget modification for the American Rescue Plan Act 2021 funding, and this is transferring funds in the amount of $77,004, again, to pay for the change order for the Star Island project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
351 is a budget modification for 2022 at East Hampton Airport. We're moving $17,226 of appropriated unreserved fund balance to outside professional in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
352 is a 2023 budget modification for the town attorney B fund, and this is moving $5,000 from outside professional to $4,000 for travel conferences and dues and $1,000 for office expense.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
353 is to approve amendment to agreement for Verizon Wireless at 411 Wainscott Northwest Road. This is for the right to make minor upgrades, including a 3-foot by 6-foot concrete pad extension and equipment cabinet in order to conform to the latest technologies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
354 is to approve purchase of refreshments. This is for the East Hampton Town Police Department, as from time to time, they host meetings, hold training sessions, and also for the Montauk St. Patrick's Day Parade. And this is an amount not to exceed $2,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
355 approves a contract for the Montauk Gateway Project with PSE&G Long Island. And this is at a cost not to exceed $316,289.45.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
356 is for Reed interview and interrogation training for 3 police officers. The financial impact is $1,900.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
357 extends the agreement with McLean Associates for engineering services of small projects. We're defining small projects is not more than $5,000 per project. And this also increases the total available funding for the same by an additional $25,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
358 revised, we need to revise resolution 2021, 1421, 2022, 183, 2022, 746. Authorize agreement with Microsoft Enterprise for the East Hampton Town Police Department and Marine Patrol in an amount not to exceed $50,000 per year for the period ending June, it should be June 30th. Carol, 2025.
Second is amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2023-359 authorizes legal action against the owners of 408 Westlake Drive. Be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the office of the town attorney to initiate, prosecute, and resolve a legal action against the appropriate parties regarding improvements to and the use of the property commonly known as 408 Westlake Drive, Town of East Hampton, Hamlet of Montauk, as more particularly described on the Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-06-03-26 in violation of East Hampton Town Code and existing approvals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 360 is to approve contract for the Montauk Gateway Project with Altice. This is for the conversion of overhead cable lines to underground at the intersection of Old Montauk Highway and Montauk Highway at a cost of $150,922.43.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
361 is to accept proposal RFP EH 2023-103, professional Gatsby 87 lease clarification services. This is with Crow LLP, and this is at the recommendation of Rebecca Hanson, Town Budget Officer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
362 is to accept proposal of McLean and Associates for professional engineering services for water service mapping at a cost of $1,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
363 is approves contract for the Montauk Gateway project with Verizon. This is for the conversion of overhead telephone lines to underground at the intersection of Old Montauk Highway and Montauk Highway at an estimated cost of $275,989.03.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2023-364 increases the cap for Cooley LLP as outside airport counsel for 2022 in an amount not to exceed $3,205,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I have two additional resolutions. The first one is Resolution 2023-365. It's amending the 2023 promotional rates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Resolution 2023-366, provisional appointment and promotion to department head to Joseph Palermo to chief building inspector. And this is at an hourly salary of $110,000 effective March 6th.
Annual.
Annual salary. What did I say?
Wanna apply
Hourly?
for that?
Yeah. Wow, I want that job, right? Annual salary of $110,000 effective March 6th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I just got handed two more. These are after hearing resolutions. The first one is ID 29102, amend Chapter 112, Community Preservation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second is ID 29103, amend Chapter 162, Supplemental Real Estate Transfer Tax for Community Housing, and that was changing the effective date to April 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Wow.
Got it in.
Peter had a lot of resolutions. You need a lot of stamina. Okay, is there any other business that needs to come before the board today?
No.
All right, do I have a motion to close?
I have a motion to go into executive session for
Okay.
personnel, leases, easements, and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.